Welcome back, everyone, to the second episode of the Top 4 podcast. My name is Claus. The first set of Champions League knockout games are in the books, and Zach, I have to ask, who needs this trophy the most?
De Bruyne is the best midfielder in the world. At age 28, he's knocking on the door of the Ballon d'Or, and with Man City's potential Champions League ban, I can't see any other player wanting this trophy more. Not to mention Pep Guardiola's future and legacy is dependent on this year's success. Yeah, for that reason, I do think that Man City obviously is one of the teams that needs this trophy, actually needs it. Not just can win it, but they need it. They were one of the top contenders last year. They probably should have been a bigger contender. A lot of people think they fell asleep against Tottenham, and I do think they have a lot to prove with a lot of their players potentially leaving. What do you think about Man City?
I think they put in a really strong performance against Madrid. Obviously, coming back down away from home, that's huge because the 2 away goals is massive. So I also just think, like you said, they don't really have a chance of the Premier League this season. They're out. Yeah, Liverpool's already got that in the books. They're out for the next 2 years as of right now. We don't know if anything's going to switch.
I would be actually mad if they appealed that.
Yeah, because it'll screw Arsenal, but we'll go on to that later. But yeah, so the 2-1 win, it's a huge result. Sergio Ramos obviously picked up the red card as well, so he won't be there for next game, so it's probably going to be Nacho if he is healthy. So I think City has a great chance of advancing to the quarterfinals. So if they can just push through this season, I think they have a good chance, and I do definitely think that they need this as well.
Yeah, I think other than them, I think there are a lot of top players, because I just said Kevin De Bruyne, one of the top players, but also another team of top players is PSG. Neymar has been kind of just running the outskirts, not really. I don't even know if he has a goal in his mind of what he wants to achieve. I don't agree with the fact that he went to PSG in the first place. And then you have Mbappe, who I feel like has to be questioning his position at PSG in this moment. You know, with Zidane potentially coming for him, I think that would actually be a good pickup for Madrid. So I think if he is potentially thinking about leaving, I also think it's a big priority for PSG to win it, not just from a player perspective, but also from an organization perspective, because they've invested so much in Neymar, in Mbappe. If they both leave, they're essentially going to start from square one. So this could be their only opportunity to win big as well.
Yeah, and PSG is one of those teams that you always expect, because they've always had the star power for years, especially looking, I think it was 3 years ago when they had the 3-goal lead against Barcelona, and then Barcelona came back and won 5-1 that game. They're always one of the best teams that can't get the job done, especially in the early rounds of the knockout stage. So Dortmund picking up a victory over them is huge for Dortmund.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, PSG did get an away goal, so if they do win the next game 1-0, they do advance. But with Haaland striking how he is right now,
he's
I
incredible.
think Dortmund is definitely going to get an away goal. So PSG needs to kick it up next round.
Yeah, they're definitely one of those teams, I feel like, at this point, is what Barcelona has become as well. Teams that you're just expecting, they're going to be a contender. They're going to be a contender constantly in people's favorites to win the competition. Also, Barcelona, I mean, Messi wasn't it last season that he was at the Camp Nou after winning it? Or maybe it was a season after they won the league, or maybe it was a season opener where he said there's one trophy that we still need to get, and he was referencing the Champions League. I feel like that is his goal for now. He's in the latter stage of his career. That is what he wants to win. And it feels like every season that goes by, even though they get more young talent, like Frankie de Jong and all these players, Messi is their best player. Messi is their identity, and he's only getting older. So every season that goes by, I do feel like Barcelona are less inclined to have a good chance at winning it.
Yeah, and also shout out to Napoli. Pulling off a draw, obviously Napoli is struggling heavy this season in Serie A. I think they're still mid-table, maybe 8th. So to be able to pull off a 1-1 draw, obviously Vidal got a red card as well, so he'll miss the next game. Barcelona's already limited on players as is. So with Vidal missing, they did only get 1 away goal. So if Napoli can somehow manage to score 2 goals next game, they have a good chance of eliminating Barca, and that is just... I don't think anybody would have expected Napoli to be able to do it.
Italian teams. Roma did the same thing.
I remember with Roma, that was crazy.
They
Manolas is going to score next game. I'm calling it. He did it for Roma. He's going to do it for Napoli.
That would be crazy.
So, yeah, but props to Napoli just for getting the draw. It's better than what I expected. I expected Barca to at least score a few on them, so good job to them. Can we talk about Atletico versus Liverpool really quick? Because a lot of people have been saying, oh, Atletico's playing too defensive. They're not exciting to watch. I don't think that matters. They're getting the win. They just beat the champions of last season.
Their fans were hyped about it.
I mean, Atletico's not had a lot to look forward to this season, that's for sure. So beating the reigning champions of Europe at home without conceding an away goal, that is a huge success. I don't care how you get the win, they got it. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's an incredible win for them. And also in the same vein of Barcelona, just to switch topics, also Juventus. Ronaldo, he's a serial winner of the competition, probably the best performer in the Champions League of all time. And not only is it Ronaldo that was the move that they needed to do, but also Maurizio Sarri. They brought him in. I can't believe that they would only think about maintaining the league success. They have Ronaldo. They had to have been thinking about the bigger picture, and that is the Champions League. And so far, I mean, his last go-around, he did win a European competition last year.
Yeah.
So he's kind of on the ball right now, but he didn't start off well against Lyon, and it is a danger. If Ronaldo's not scoring in the knockout stage, which he always does, I don't think that they're going to be able to go through. And just like Barcelona, Ronaldo's only getting older. They don't know if Maurizio Sarri is even going to be their manager. They could get Guardiola. I feel like they also need to win this competition.
Yeah, and then in terms of the Wednesday games from the previous week, so we had Atalanta versus Valencia. What a season Atalanta is having.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Obviously, Valencia finished top of the group with Ajax.
It's kind of an Ajax season.
It is. It really is. They are, I believe, 4th in Serie A. So they're in the process of qualifying for next season as well. And a 4-1 win against Valencia, who topped the group with Ajax and Chelsea. That was a really good result.
Respect to Valencia, too. We needed that. Chelsea needed that.
Yeah. So that was crazy. And then obviously Tottenham versus Leipzig. Tottenham is obviously a team that just needs trophies in general.
Yeah, they're done. They have Kane and Son out. They can't.
Yeah, no. I don't see them. They might score a goal, but I see Leipzig scoring at least 1 or 2 at home. So I think Leipzig will move out of that one. And Tottenham is struggling to score goals, obviously. So
yeah, they're in trouble.
I don't know how that's going to work out for them. I personally hope Leipzig goes through. That's just the Arsenal fan inside of me. But
yeah, but the Bundesliga fans wouldn't agree with that. I think Leipzig is like the most hated team in the Bundesliga because of, I did some research about it, the ways that they kind of walk around their financial, because the financial rules of fair play in the German league are different to the point where there's certain investing you can do. And with all of the subsidiary clubs that they're a parent club to, they do get a lot of players for free. Like they got Tyler Adams basically for free.
Yeah, that's true.
So it'll be interesting because I feel like Dortmund are the good guys. They want them to win. And Leipzig, they definitely don't want to go through.
Yeah. And then we also have one last game that we did not talk about. And I'll let you talk about this one because obviously it hit kind of close to home.
No, we could just skip it, to be
Chelsea
honest. Chelsea
versus Bayern. What were your thoughts on this match?
Was just a reality check for all of these teams. Chelsea, Arsenal, United, hell, even Sheffield United. All these teams that want to get into the Champions League. It's just a reality check that these are the best clubs in Europe. We got absolutely destroyed. I mean, it was humiliation, but at the same time, it's just a reality check, like I said, about how far off we are of being one of the best clubs in Europe. Domestically, we're fine, but we got just picked apart. Lewandowski is he's probably up there now, definitely for the best striker in the world. He barely got that many touches in that first half of that game. I want to say he only got like 10, 15 touches, but I was so scared. Like knees weak, butt clenching every time he touched the ball. He almost scored. Like, it was just every time he touched the ball in the first half, it was like he was racing towards it, and Willy Caballero got there just a second before he did.
Caballero was really good that game.
Yeah, which just shows you we're playing freaking 38-year-old Willy Caballero and like Giroud and Pedro. We're just not on that level yet, and it's just a reality check to all these teams that is the top of Europe. I do think Bayern is potentially one of the favorites and one of the underdogs in that competition. Their starting 11, not even their starting 11, their subs bench. They subbed on Coutinho. They have such a deep squad. Yeah, that is ridiculous. And they have such a deep squad. All these teams, Barcelona, even Liverpool and City and Bayern, these teams are they're an upper echelon. They're a tier above, which we need to aspire to. But domestically, just to take it back for a second, because I do think, as much as fans want to get really high up and criticize certain elements, it is just that it's a reality check. They're just above us, and we kind of had to accept that at the moment. But if we want to judge on a more fair level, I think we do have to look domestic and look at the Tottenham game, where we did perform exceedingly well with players like Caballero and Giroud. I think Tottenham, I mean, they're just never going to win it. They're just never going to win against us. It's just straight up. Lampard's like 2-0 against Tottenham. And I think there's a lot of stand-up performances that do make you question. Giroud was really good, which makes you think, is Batshuayi just done? He's made so many mistakes. I mean, he hasn't really capitalized on anything. Giroud, he's made mistakes before too, but that goal, oh my god, it was such needed. I was screaming when that happened.
Yeah, no, Giroud, he's always been one of those strikers that if you need a goal, you can count on him, especially if he gets those chances. So, like, even for Arsenal, like, he didn't start every game, but he was still, like, our top scorer every single game when we had Sanchez, when we had Ozil. So, he's a very lethal, he's a lethal striker. Even at this age, he wanted to leave. I think he's trying to prove himself now more than ever, because obviously he didn't leave in January, even though he was linked to Inter mostly. So I think now with Batshuayi missing a lot, he's trying to prove that he should start until Tammy gets back. Is Tammy fit again, or what's the?
He pretty much is. He has, like, during the Tottenham game, Lampard said he was 70% fit, so he's probably closer to like 90% at the Bayern game. And people were making excuses, and people were getting upset at people making excuses for Tammy. They were saying, oh, he's got an ankle injury, he's not performing as well. And people were saying off the back of that, doesn't matter if you have even a slight ankle injury, he was absolutely horrible. And I just think for a lot of these young players, not just Tammy, but Mason Mount, Reece James even, who got turned around by Alphonso Davies. Oh my god, Alphonso Davies is so good.
One of the best young players for sure.
But all of these young players, they need time, and what we need is quality players. Kovacic has been so incredible. He was an upper echelon. He was on Bayern's level in that game, the only player that was probably on Bayern's level. And it shows you that we need more players like that. Hakim Ziyech will be that, but we need more players like that. We need a quality left back. We probably need a backup striker, especially if Giroud is leaving. And also, with the 3-4-3 adjustment that Lampard made, I don't think that's practical or that's even what Lampard wants, but it's kind of what he has to do. I don't think he has the squad to do what he really wants, and I think in the summer, we probably will get some players that will fulfill that, but we have to be patient because it's not just going to be one window. We're not just going to break every financial fair play rule to get what we want. It's going to be multiple windows before we are one of those best clubs in Europe again, if we could even get to that.
Yeah, let me ask you this before we move on. Do you think being in Champions League was helpful or hurtful for Chelsea this season? Because obviously losing Hazard was huge. Mm-hmm. You guys signed a lot of youngsters, Tammy, Mason Mount, Reece James. Like, you guys have all these young players. Do you think it would have been better for you guys to finish in a Europa League spot and maybe try to push further in that tournament? Or do you think the young players playing against the better teams like Bayern is helping them grow and adapt?
I think Champions League made the statements that we need to make, even the ones that we don't want to face. the statements that we need players and that we're not as good as we want to. I feel like if we were in Europa League, I don't think those would have been addressed as much. I don't think Rudiger, people saying that he has so much leadership and he's a top quality center back, him getting destroyed at Bayern was partially what we needed. I don't think that would have happened in Europa League. And I also think it's what United needs as well, and what Arsenal I think has already come to. It's just that you need to be better. The standard needs to be higher. So I do feel that even though we would have succeeded in the Europa League, we needed to reveal these marks in the Champions League. So I think it was useful for that.
All right. That's, I think, a good way to end it for Chelsea.
Yep.
Shall we move on to Arsenal for a bit and just talk about...
One of the most exciting games that I didn't watch.
Wow, that Everton game. The amount of stress that game put on me. Like, oh my God. I couldn't sit. For the last, 10 minutes, I was just on my feet, glued to the TV. I'm like, this can't happen. So
I know. I kept seeing the stats. I was like, what the hell? They scored again.
Yeah. For anybody that didn't watch the Everton-Arsenal game, Arsenal did come up with the win. It was 3-2. Everton scored within, I believe it was 40 seconds of the game. Little David Luiz error kind of bounced off his shoulder, back of his head, and then Calvert-Lewin scored a beautiful overhead bicycle kick. It was really nice. But we pulled it together. We were able to recover really fast, which under Emery, under Ljungberg, you would never see that. If we conceded in the first 10 minutes, I might as well just turn the TV off. It was over. We lost the game.
That was the Bayern game, pretty much.
Yeah. But no, they played really well. Nketiah got a few shots. Nketiah has really impressed me. His off-the-ball movement for a 20-year-old, I think, is a really good trait to learn at a young age. So he did really well. And then our first goal, Kolasinac got a shoulder injury and he got subbed off. Hopefully he's okay. We're not fully aware of what the injury is. Saka comes on, gets an assist within 10 minutes. Saka is, in my opinion, top 3 youngsters in the Premier League. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He has double-digit assists, and he's playing in a position that he's never played in his life.
Yeah, I think that injury to Kolasinac in that game was kind of symbolic about how throughout the season, Kolasinac been injured, Tierney's been injured, and it's almost it's kind of like a blessing in which Saka comes on, immediately gets an assist. It just shows that this is the guy for you.
And the scary thing is the contract talks still aren't fully progressing, and he's only got 18 months left. So if anybody at the Arsenal team is listening to this, please sign this man to a lifetime contract.
I think they might just be holding out to get more money. It's probably what it is.
Yeah, because he's only on, I believe, 2 or 3K a week. So yeah, no, he definitely deserves a new contract. Deserves a lot more. I'd even start him at left wing if we do somehow lose Aubameyang. I really hope we don't, but if that does happen, I would start Saka in the wing. But yeah, going back to the game, so we tied it 1-1, and Nketiah scored a beautiful goal off of a Saka cross, and then we kept pushing. See, under Emery again, we would have just given up. We're like, okay, we got the draw, we can kind of afford until halftime. David Luiz plays a lovely through pass to Aubameyang. Aubameyang had Nketiah completely open for the short pass. Obviously, he's a world-class striker, just takes it Thierry Henry-esque curler into the corner. Absolutely wonderful. And then Everton scores in the last 20 seconds before halftime. Arteta gets pissed. I know he yelled at every single player in the locker room, which is needed. And
I'd love to see that.
I know, yeah. Arteta just knows what to do. It's fantastic. And then we come out, Aubameyang scores within 30 seconds. Pepe gets another assist. It just looks like this team is gelling better than I've seen them play together in probably the last, I'd say, 3 seasons.
Yeah, Pepe and Aubameyang have a really good connection. I feel like every week I've seen another cross from Pepe, and it's an Aubameyang tap in, and they always celebrate together as well.
Yeah, no. That's the one thing. Aubameyang is just captain's material. He connects really well. He's praised all the young players. He's like gotten connections with everybody, so he is just. I do believe he is one of the best strikers in the world, even though he doesn't play striker for us, which just proves how good he is.
That's gonna make it even harder to probably move on from him in the next 2 years or so.
Yeah, and then the last thing I want to talk about Arsenal, Leno. Thank God we have Leno. Leno he's probably the most undervalued goalkeeper in the Premier League.
There's players like Dubravka and stuff, but yeah, Leno's definitely up there.
But yeah, I think Dubravka and then Henderson for Sheffield.
Yeah, Sheffield.
But yeah, no, Leno, I think he has the highest save per game ratio in the Premier League. He just kept us 3 clean sheets in a row, which is like unheard of. Like I haven't seen that in like years. So no, Leno has just been amazing. He made like 4 saves in the last like 7 or 8 minutes against like Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison. And then even after the game, the second goal kind of was his fault because Richarlison went in and he just kind of like pushed back and the ball went in. He admitted after the game that he could have done better with that, which is what you love to see with your goalkeeper. So I just think the whole team is fitting very well. So I'm ecstatic, and I really hope that we could get that Champions League spot. Just we're probably going to get destroyed. It'd be nice to see our team back there. Yeah,
it's just at your spot, at the point you're in, you kind of just need to take the W's where they come. I don't feel like you can be, especially with Arteta, like you have the guy. I don't think you could be massively critical at this point. I think you just have to accept what comes and maybe improve in the future with transfers.
Yeah, I agree with that. Speaking of transfers, so there has been a lot of rumors going around for many different teams. There is a few linked with Arsenal that I will start about. Thomas Partey. I can't see this one happening because obviously Atletico did just beat Liverpool in the Champions League. If we don't make Champions League, there's no way he's accepting this offer. But the rumor is about 45 million euros, I believe, his buyout clause. And Arteta apparently is willing to pay that to get into discussions with him by the beginning of summer or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be a fantastic signing, but the only thing I'm worried about is where he would fit for Arsenal. Because obviously we have Torreira, we have Xhaka, we have Guendouzi. I don't know how he would fit, but obviously he is a world-class midfielder, so I would be very happy with that signing.
Yeah, but he's a very Diego Simeone player. He's a very defensive player. I feel like he fits that team. I personally, if I was in his situation, I wouldn't really leave a team that's kind of catered to my best characteristics. And
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and there also is that I feel like you'd do better with a creative player rather than a defensive player.
Yeah, and then also Emil Forsberg from Leipzig has been linked with Arsenal, Leicester, and Manchester United, but more heavily sort of with Arsenal. I believe the offer at hand is, I think Leipzig said they would be looking at offers of around 17 million euros. He's 28. Obviously, he had a great World Cup with Sweden. He's been fantastic for providing assists, and I think he has almost 40 goals in like 140 games for Leipzig or something like that. So I think he's a pretty good midfielder. Obviously, he still has a few years before he's like a little past his prime. So I think it would be a good rotation player, and under 20 million, can you really complain in this market?
Yeah, I think because I watch a lot of Leipzig games because I love Tyler Adams, so I love to keep up with them. And what I've seen from him that I think he would suggest that he could succeed at Arsenal is that he's a creative player that plays out from the back, which with their defensive woes, that could be something Arsenal needs. And Arsenal, I feel like with Dani Ceballos, maybe with Joe Willock and with some Reece Nelson, some of these other players, I feel like they could develop creativity from the sort of halfway line going forward. But I've said this before, they don't have a transition from defense to midfield to attack, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Guendouzi tries to be that. I feel like he's a bit overzealous, over-energetic, sometimes messes up. And Xhaka is that for you at this point. It's what he's basically the role he's been given with his long-range passing. But I feel like Forsberg could be good at doing that, at being creative from a deeper position. But also there is the fact of his age, and he's probably not going to get much better than this, and the Premier League is much more difficult.
That's true. Yeah. So a few other transfers. Manchester United, as we know, every single transfer window, they are linked to everybody and their families. Like if
just keep going.
Yeah, if there's someone like even remotely decent that could remotely that could somewhat fill a position that they could potentially play, they are linked to them. The two newest ones, Moussa Dembele from Lyon and Jack Grealish from Aston Villa. What are your thoughts on these transfers?
To start with Jack Grealish, I actually think this is as realistic a big signing as they're going to get after Bruno Fernandes.
Yep.
And I feel this is the one that they need to target on and they need to get. I think Sancho is unrealistic for them. I even think it's unrealistic for Chelsea. I do think there's possibly he'll stay at Dortmund, but Jack Grealish I feel is someone they could get, and I feel like he would deliver on what they need. They need forward players. They need strikers as well, which they are looking into, but I feel like Jack Grealish, in terms of a creative player, it's in their budget to get him, and I really don't feel like many other teams, maybe Chelsea, but I don't think many other teams are looking at Jack Grealish. And I do think they could just swoop in and get him. And yeah, that's one of the more realistic options for them. Though also, he is coming into being a top quality player, which is also what they want. They don't want mediocrity. They want top quality. So I think it's pretty good for them.
Yeah, I think so too. And then Moussa Dembele, obviously, they will have Rashford back in a month or two, I think. And then they have Martial. I can't see how Moussa would fit into the team unless they sell either Martial or Rashford, which I also can't see happening.
Yeah, they're not doing that.
So I don't think that one's too realistic. But yeah, I think Jack Grealish would be fantastic. I think his asking price is 45 million, or his buyout clause is 45 million euros. So they might just pay that and go straight into discussions. I'm sure he would be open. Obviously, Aston Villa is 17th right now, so he might look to leave, even though he is a Villa fan at heart. So
what I've heard is that they're trying to sign him aggressively before the Euros because they think his stock price will rise once the Euros start.
I think
also
that's
what
true.
What I've seen from United is that they drag on their transfers. They dragged on Maguire as much as they could because no one else was looking for him. So they were like, we're going to get this at the price that we want. They dragged on Aaron Wan-Bissaka because no one else was looking for him. And then they wanted to get Bruno Fernandes that past summer, but because they dragged on those two transfers, they ran out of room. Yeah. So they had to drag Bruno Fernandes all the way to January, and they even dragged it through that entire month.
Yeah, that took a while.
Yeah, so they need to get Jack Grealish early, which is, if that is their course of thinking, that is the right one. I just don't have the belief in Manchester United and Ed Woodward that they're going to actually do a deal efficiently for the first time ever.
Yeah. And then also, just a smaller transfer. Chris Smalling previously talked about his transfer or his loan offer to Roma and how much it's helped his confidence and everything. Mm-hmm. I could see him going permanently to Roma. He's had a great season. Roma's doing not too bad. I think they're like 5th or something.
Yeah, they always have problems though.
Yeah, so I think Chris Smalling to Roma on a permanent would be a good transfer for him. And yeah, I don't think we need much more on that. And then Ousmane Dembele to where we don't know to where, but to Barcelona might be wanting to sell him in the summer. Which
this is just a crazy one.
Yeah. It's so sad because he is a world-class player. Like, he's shown it at Dortmund, he's shown it at Barcelona. Not often, but he does. It's just he's so injury prone.
Yeah, people forget that he was Mbappe before Mbappe came. He was that guy.
Yeah.
And he has 9 injuries on one thigh. It's just, I don't know if he's going to be the same ever again.
Yeah, it's crazy. So those were pretty much the main transfers of the last week or so that we've seen. We're going to move on to some predictions for this weekend's games. Starting with Manchester United versus Everton. What do you think this game is going to end up being?
I need them to slip up. I just need it.
I need it too.
They need to lose points.
I need it too, believe me.
I slate Everton. I don't think that they're moving in the right direction, and I really don't think they're a good team, but I watched the highlights at least from the Arsenal game, and from what you're telling me, I think they could potentially hurt Manchester United. I think Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin are a good partnership. Sometimes they maybe overcomplicate things, but I think they're both quality strikers, and I feel like they could target the United defense. But at the same time, Bruno Fernandes is really impacting the league just greatly. He has like 2 goals or 2 assists and a goal in 3 games. Yeah. So he could probably step it up. And so I feel like there maybe is a higher likelihood because of that of a United win. But I'm going to go with my gut. And I'm going to say that Everton are going to win 2-1.
All right. So my thinking is the same. My logic, though, is just based on the season in general. Obviously, they still don't have Rashford. They're still not the team that they should be. So I believe if Everton plays like how they did against Arsenal, I think with Ancelotti, they've had a record of like 5 wins, 2 draws, and now 2 losses because of Arsenal. I think they will be able to pull something off. I'm going to give it a 2-2 draw. Yeah, I hope that's right, because a draw would help us very much.
Praying.
Yeah, and then there's Tottenham versus Wolves.
It's a quick one. They're going to get destroyed.
I'm going to say Wolves 2-0.
Yeah, I'm going to say Wolves 3 is a lot, because Mourinho's going to park the bus, definitely. So yeah, I'll probably say 2-0 as well. They don't really have any goal threat, and Troyer is just going to tear them up. Okay. And at Raúl Jiménez.
Yeah, I believe that. Juventus versus Inter.
This is a crazy game.
I don't know how
Serie
to
A
predict
this season.
One. Yeah, it's probably the most interesting league for sure.
So far, I don't think it's going to be postponed, because there have been a lot of games that have been postponed, but I don't think this one has.
Yeah. I know Inter's next Europa League game tomorrow, because it's getting recorded on Wednesday, is going to be played like in closed doors, so like no fans are going to be in.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if they're going to do that for Juventus. I doubt it, but yeah, you never know.
I mean, Ronaldo didn't fire in his Champions League game. Either it's going to be one of those things where Ronaldo kind of goes on a bit of a quiet spell, or he's going to come back with a vengeance. Because as of recently, I think just recently, he was on his like longest scoring streak of scoring in a game since like a couple of years ago at Madrid.
Yeah, I think he's scored in 11 straight Serie A games or something like that. Yeah. I think he's tied the record for the league. So I'm going to say Inter's 6 points behind, but they've played 1 less game. So if Inter wins this next game and then they win their one after that, they are first place due to goal difference. I'm going to say an Inter... I was going to say 3-2. I'm going to say Inter 3-2 win. Yeah, let's go with that.
I think, I want Inter to win because I've always liked Inter. Lazio too, and I love Antonio Conte, but I think Ronaldo's going to fire again. And Inter lost to Lazio. They gave up points. I think they're probably going to give up points this time again. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Juventus.
Okay, all right. And then our final game to talk about for predictions, El Clasico, Real Madrid versus Barcelona. This is a really interesting one because both teams are not doing well right now. Madrid just came off the loss to City. They lost to Levante 1-0. Does Ramos miss El Clasico?
I don't know.
Or is it just Champions League? I actually don't remember how that works.
I don't know. But they have Eder Militao, I think. Is he still fit?
Yeah, he is. And then they also have Rodrigo, who picked up a red card against in the second division for Real Madrid Castilla. So he will miss El Clasico as well. Hazard's out injured for the rest of the season.
So sad.
Yeah. And then Barcelona obviously doesn't have that many attacking options. They just got Braithwaite. We talked about that in the last podcast. You guys should go check that out if you haven't already.
And they got woes with their manager. I mean, I saw a lot of people say that they should start Artur, however you want to say it, the Brazilian, for the Champions League game. I think people were upset that Rakitic played. So I don't know if either clubs are really in a fluid, guns blazing form right now.
Yeah. For me personally, obviously Barcelona's 2 points ahead right now. I'm going to say Madrid 2-1 because I think they will push back for that title because they do have a week or two break until the next Champions League match. I think they're going to go full force into this game.
I'm going to go with a kind of bold statement. I think I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw. I think the last El Clasico, people were saying it was one of the worst El Clasicos they've ever seen, and I think we're just going to get more of the same. There's no hazard. Both clubs are kind of in turmoil at the moment. Maybe Barcelona not as much as last time. But I think, Messi definitely, I think, gives Barcelona the edge. But for some reason, I just feel like it's kind of going to be dead. And I feel like it's going to be 0-0.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. All right, so now we're going to move on to a new segment that we're probably going to be bringing out every single week. It's called Young Player of the Week. We have both found one young player that has kind of caught our attention, maybe not just in this last week, but throughout the season, that we see a lot of potential in. So, Zach, do you want to start off with your first one?
Yeah, I'll go first. I got one that he's a Liverpool player, so I don't exactly like saying it. But Curtis Jones, he has 9 goals and 4 assists in 14 matches for Liverpool's under-23. He has a goal in Liverpool's senior side of the League Cup, which was that game where Liverpool basically forfeited because Klopp didn't want to waste the energy, didn't play the senior players. He didn't coach it. He scored in that match. And most recently, people might know this, he had a hat-trick in 8 minutes in his last Youth Cup game. And he's there's a lot of English players that are kind of on fire right now. A lot of people coming up. And I feel like definitely if Curtis Jones could maybe eventually come up and get some of Klopp's influence, even just a little bit, we could see him sort of reach heights of maybe not Sancho, but maybe Callum Hudson-Odoi, and kind of come up and be another one of these creative English players.
Yeah, he's definitely looking like he could be a good player. For mine, I chose a player in the Champions League, Giovanni Reina for Borussia Dortmund, 17 years old, came on in the second half against PSG, got an assist in only 20 minutes of play. He's looking fantastic. He's been subbed in quite a few games this season. I think he just started a game about 2 or 3 games ago. He's getting more minutes, 17 years old. He's American, which is exciting for us because obviously we get some new talent to see.
Yep.
And yeah, I just think if he's anything like his father was for US or for the club level, he will be a fantastic player in the future. And then to move on, I think we are going to go into our last segment of the episode, Hit or Miss. It's returning once again. We're switching it up a bit. We're both going to have one player that we think will hit this week or that has been hitting, and then one player that we think will miss or has been missing previously. So should we start with the misses then?
Yeah, I think I'll start with my miss, which this is a player who, coming into the season, I think he had a lot of stock. A lot of clubs were interested in the previous window before, and that's Wilfried Zaha. He has 6 goal contributions in 27 league games.
Yeah.
It's been terrible. And I don't even think he can be bailed out saying he had help with Batshuayi. Because look at Batshuayi this season. He's also been terrible. So clearly, you might not have had that much help. And I feel like he needed to step it up to another level, but he's actually regressed. He had a lot of clubs like Arsenal and Chelsea willing to spend like 40 million. Even Chelsea recently was willing to spend like 38 million. And I feel like he definitely hasn't put on the season he needs to get up to that next level. And their next game, Crystal Palace, they played Brighton. And I feel like that should be an opportunity for him to step up, get a goal at least. But I really don't think he is. I think it's just going to continue his bad form. I think he's going to miss again.
All right, and then the player I chose for the miss, it's a really obvious one. Going back to the BPL, Newcastle, Joe Linton. What is this man doing this season? Obviously, we talked about him last week against Arsenal, and Newcastle got absolutely destroyed. This man has 1 goal in 27 league appearances.
Oh my God.
I believe he is their record transfer. And he has 1 goal as a striker in 27 matches. Like, that is unbelievably horrible. I can't see him scoring again. I'm not quite sure who Newcastle plays this week.
Doesn't matter. He's not going to score.
Yeah, that's my thinking on this too. They play Burnley. I can't see him scoring against them either. I can't see him scoring at all for the rest of the season.
A low block.
So, yeah, my miss for this week is Joelinton. We will see how he does, and then probably won't be well, though. Mm-hmm. And then moving on to the hit. Who was your hit for this week?
This one hurt me in my soul, but I have to give acknowledgments. His development's been incredible. It's Serge Gnabry for Bayern Munich. His numbers are just insane. He has 18 goal contributions in 21 Bundesliga games. He has 6 goals in 6 Champions League games, and he has 8 goals and 1 assist in their Euro qualifiers. I mean, he's just been incredible, especially since, I don't think people really thought he'd be that hot, being sold for like 4 or 5 million from Arsenal. He's just in a team with a lethal striker like Lewandowski. He's just been absolutely incredible, and it seems like he always scores all the time, especially in the big moments, not just the big moments at the club level, but also for Germany, and also with this club in the Champions League. And they play Hoffenheim, who's 8th. And I think it's just going to turn it up again. I don't see him slowing down. I think it's just going to get better and better. And I actually think he's just one of the best German players overall.
Yeah, Serge Gnabry, the ex-Arsenal man, is absolutely killing it. Another player that is absolutely killing it is my hit for this week, Diogo Jota. For Wolves, has scored 5 goals in his last 2 games, including a hat-trick against Espanyol. They play Espanyol again tomorrow. They won 4-0 in the first leg. I don't think they'll struggle at all. I can see him scoring at least another 2 or 3 in the next 2 games or so. So I think he will definitely be a hit. He has kind of struggled this season. He hasn't been as lethal as he was last season, but he still is doing absolute bits. Like, he only has 5 league goals, but Europa League and just like goals in competitions, he's, especially right now, he's just lethal. So I think he is a good player to use as my hit.
He's incredible.
So I believe this is it for episode 2 of the Top 4 podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. Is there anything else you want to say, Zach?
No, I think we hit on everything we needed to hit on. I think it was good.
All right, so please like, subscribe, share it with your friends, maybe argue with anybody if you want, leave some comments.
I'll fight anybody on Twitter. I will fight anyone on Twitter 100%.
Top 4 Podcast 1 on both Twitter and Instagram as well. We both created accounts. Zach will fight you on Twitter. There's no doubt about that. If you have any
especially
arguments
about Chelsea
that you want to pick, yeah, just go on Twitter, Top 4 Podcast 1. But other than that, please like and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video.
Peace.